Are the Apple M4 laptops about to get significantly more expensive due to the trade war? This is the unfortunate topic I want to talk about in today's video. This laptop is a MacBook Pro M4 Pro chip, which I just happened to purchase about a week ago. I wish I could say I'm some genius who was anticipating massive tariffs and I was just trying to get in before that. But in reality, I just kind of needed a new laptop and I saw a price that I enjoyed. But as most of you surely know by now, Donald Trump has just announced huge tariffs on pretty much every country in the world, specifically in this case China, who of course manufactures a lot of iPhone and laptop parts. Now, this is from a website called Mac Rumors, which is just sort of speculating about some of the price increases we might see. Now, I'm going to show you what some new prices could look like if Mac Rumors is correct. And then I'm going to share some thoughts afterwards on if this will actually come to pass. Now, I'm not going to read this whole article, but to make a long story short, Trump just announced a 34% tariff on China. This combines with a 20% tariff, which was already there. So I think it's fair to say that the 20% tariff was already built into the cost of the items that we're looking at. The 34% tariff is new, and this could be the actual price raise that we're looking at. So for myself, though I did buy mine in Canadian dollars. I'm showing you the US price for simplicity and because, well, it's the United States who's going to be faced with this escalating trade war with China and other countries. So what I got was the 14-core CPU, 1 terabyte of storage, 24 gigs of RAM, beautiful laptop. I'm really enjoying it so far. And this baby can be yours for just under $2,400 US. Now, will this price change in the coming days and weeks? And to give you an idea, let's just say hypothetically, okay, the US has just put a 34% tariff on China. So Apple and the other countries who are ordering from China decide, you know what, we actually like making money. We don't want to pay a penny of that. 34%, we're just going to pass it on to consumers. This is what that same $2,400 laptop would look like. Well, you know, Apple would probably round that off to $215 or something like that. But basically, we're looking at $3,214.66. Okay, so that is enormous. Now, if I go back to this article, a couple things I wanted to point out is they actually speak to some experts, and let's put experts in quotation marks because, to be fair, like no one has ever experienced a trade war of this magnitude in our lifetime. So all we can really do is speculate. But our friends at Rosenblatt Securities believe that Apple will need to raise iPhone and Apple Watch prices 43%. Okay, that's enormous. iPhone prices 42%. Mac and AirPod prices 39%. Again, I have no idea where they're getting these numbers from, but let's just put that as another possible scenario. If it were to rise by 39%, if you take that same laptop, which costs $2,400 US, 39% equals $935.61 for a new price of $3,334.61. And now we truly are nearing $1,000 increase, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Now, another outcome which would not be good but is slightly better than the others, Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring told CNBC that Apple would likely need to raise prices by 17 to 18%. Once again, let's check the math. We're looking at an increase of about $420 US for a new total of $2,818.83. Now, of course, you can do this similar calculation on any item you might be looking at. I don't think it's worth our time to actually go through the different items and do the math. But if we have experts saying it could be anything from 18% to, what was the one guy saying, 40%? I mean, 40% seems pretty outrageous. I don't know if anyone would actually buy laptops. What's interesting as a Canadian is I wonder how they would deal with Canadian prices. Because if I go to apple.ca, the Canadian prices are quite high at the moment because our Canadian dollar is not doing too well. Like the cheapest MacBook Air in Canada is $1,400. Whereas in the US, how much is that? I bet it's like $1,000. I bet it's going to be $999. Let's see. Maybe even less. Nope, there it is, $999. Yeah, so that just goes to show you. I mean, it's at 40% higher in Canada. That shows you how weak the Canadian dollar is. But imagine if suddenly this is costing $1,400 US dollars in the US. Imagine if there's a 40% tariff, right? And the Canadian one stays at 1,400 Canadian, which is the equivalent of 1,000 US. Wouldn't that be an interesting situation? Because for so long, I mean, Canadians like me often travel to the US for, there's products like when the Apple Vision Pro was released, it wasn't released in Canada. Sometimes you have things slightly faster than we have in Canada. Sometimes with the exchange rate, it's slightly cheaper in the US. I bought some Apple AirPods when I was down in Florida because the tax rate was way cheaper than where I live. So it would be fun. It would be kind of funny if the tables were turned and suddenly Americans were going to Canada to buy their laptops. Yeah, so we're in very interesting times here, my friends. And I certainly don't have any insider information, or I would not just be reading you from Mac Rumors. But I can tell you that a lot of people are expecting big price raises. April 9th is the date you need to know about. Apple won't have to pay tariffs for goods that are on a vessel and in transit to their destination before 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time on April 9th. I mean, it's literally April 5th as I'm recording this. It'll probably be April 6th by the time I get this video up. So we have like 3 days, my friends. Essentially 3 days to buy things before it is costing Apple 34% more than it was the day before. Now, whether they pass those prices on to the consumer remains to be seen. My instinct, I could be proven wrong. You guys who are watching this video in the future can laugh if I'm completely wrong. My instinct is I don't think these tariffs are going to disappear. I don't think Trump is joking. I think they will stay for a while at least. But I think companies like Apple are going to try and eat the price increase. Like maybe I see a maximum 10% price increase. I think if they raised it by 10%, people would grumble and complain, but people would still buy their new iPhone. People would still buy their new laptop, at least for a little while. If they went straight to a 34% increase, I just think no one would buy anything. It would destroy the company. It would, like, literally, they would be in big, big trouble. Though I guess you could argue that if every company is getting hit by these tariffs at the same time and all the competitors are also going up, sooner or later someone would have to buy their laptop somewhere, right? So it would just be a really bad situation for consumers because everything would be higher. Kind of like how all the grocery store prices simultaneously went up over the last 5 years. There's no way to slice it that isn't bad news for consumers. I don't mean to get political here, but you know, it's a rough time for anyone looking for electronics. But my personal opinion, like I just said, is there probably will be increases, but I don't even know. It's entirely possible that April 9th passes and there's no increases. Though I suppose if you like need a laptop, you could buy it and then return it a few days later if there is no increase. But then there's a risk that the price increase comes later. So you really, you know, basically what I would do if I were you, I obviously just bought a new laptop, so I don't need to worry about this. But I'm feeling grateful that I did. And if I hadn't bought a new laptop last week, I would probably be going to the Apple store tomorrow and buying one. Even if it's only a 20% chance that the prices go way up in a few days, I don't want to be thinking about all this and just watch it happen and then be like, oh, I was actually one of the people who was aware enough to see this coming, to be on the rumor sites, to see that there's a strong likelihood prices are going up, and then I hadn't acted. I would rather have acted, even if I acted a bit too prematurely. You know, I would rather take that step. So if you have a purchase you're looking at making, I recommend you to either make it or take some time, give some real thought to if you need this item in the next year. If you don't, that's okay. I'm not advocating for just mindless consumerism. But if you think you need something soon, it's probably a good time.